Al Capone, Scarface. I'm sure you remember him as the hardened mob boss killer from Chicago. But this son of Italian immigrants did a few more things than just run an illegal alcohol and prostitution syndicate during the Prohibition years. In his quest to make endless money, he had a need for his adopted city of Chicago to see him as a decent guy. In his short 48 years on this earth, he created a legendary name for himself that still lives on to this day. But this is a story about something remarkable he did that you have likely never heard of. Alphonse Capone was born on January 17, 1899 in Brooklyn, New York. His father was a barber and his mother was a seamstress. He was one of 8 children who was described by elementary teachers as a bright student. But by the 6th grade, he had begun to struggle and actually had to repeat the 6th grade. Angry and frustrated, he began to get in trouble and one day was whipped by a teacher. Instead of just taking his punishment, he struck out and punched his teacher in the face. This led to him dropping out of school by age 14. He worked odd jobs around Brooklyn and eventually ran into gangster Johnny Torrio, who became his mentor. He got involved with small gangs like Junior 40 Thieves and the Bowery Boys, and then joined up with the 5 Points gang in Lower Manhattan. He became a bartender in Coney Island, where he insulted a woman while he was working the door. Her brother, not taking kindly to Capone's words, slashed him in the face 3 times with a knife, and the legendary nickname Scarface was born. Capone left his home in New York in 1919 to join up with his mentor Torrio, who had become a crime boss in Chicago. He became a bouncer in a brothel where it's believed he caught syphilis. Torrio was running the biggest crime syndicate in Chicago, and Capone was his trusted right-hand man. And after an attempt on his life in 1925 where he was shot several times, Torrio retired and handed over the reins to Capone. He ran his business shrewdly and unforgivingly. He attempted to make peace with the people in the city by helping supply them with their beloved outlawed beverages. But in 1929, his ongoing feud with rival crime boss Bugs Moran led Capone to ordering the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where Capone's men dressed up as police officers and ambushed Moran's men and killed 7 of them. As word and pictures of the gruesome event spread throughout Chicago, public outrage began to grow, and Capone was ordered to testify before a grand jury on charges of Prohibition violations. He now had a big image problem, and he needed to make it change fast. So during the Depression era, he opened up a soup kitchen to feed jobless and homeless people within the city. He reportedly served patrons himself. He was seen as something of a hero for the common man. It's estimated that he and his staff served around 2,200 people per day, with 350 loaves of bread, 120 rolls, 30 pounds of coffee, and 50 pounds of sugar used each day. He even hosted a Thanksgiving dinner for the homeless and unemployed. The kitchen ran until the economy picked up and then eventually closed. But there was something else that Al Capone did, something that changed the milk and dairy industry forever. Not only wanting an image rehab, but always in the business for making money, Capone began to eye the Chicago milk industry. It was strictly controlled by the milk union, and everyone knew the prices were hugely inflated. It was an area where he could see that he could win points with the public if he could reduce the price Depression households were paying for their everyday needed food items. He knew no business could be conducted without the approval of the milk overlords, and he referred to them as the Milk Cartel. He began to put a plan in place. He recruited his brother Ralph to help him import milk from Wisconsin that they could bottle and sell cheaper. But this plan also included kidnapping the milk union's president, for whom he demanded a hefty ransom, that he then used to purchase the Meadowmore Dairies Incorporated, a local bottling factory where they planned to bottle their milk and sell and bypass the milk union. This led to a war with the milk union and pushed out some mom-and-pop distributors that couldn't compete with the Capone brothers' reach and Teamsters. And reportedly, it didn't stop with milk. The Capone's dairy industry endeavors led them to pushing the New York pizzerias into using what has been described as the Village Voice as his rubbery mob cheese that was quite the poor substitute for the good cheese Naples immigrants had been making since they arrived in New York. Apparently, the distribution for this new cheese could be traced back to Meadowmore and Capone's, suggestion. Yeah, we'll say suggestion, that these pizza joints start using their low-moisture cheese from his dairy farms. Word on the street was that if pizzerias wanted to use their own mozzarella, they could, as long as they didn't sell it by the slice. And while this slice business could be a bit of Mafia folklore, it's pretty well documented they shook people down over mozzarella. Joe Bonanno, a Mafia godfather, partially owned a cheese company in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, called Grande. And in a report from 1980 Pennsylvania Crime Commission, it stated that Bonanno initiated a conspiracy to control the specialty cheese business in the United States in the early 1940s. And at one point in time, he controlled the activities of the largest and most prosperous specialty cheese companies. In May of 1931, Capone pleaded guilty to income tax evasion and was sentenced to prison. While in prison, he allegedly was told of a family member or friend of a family member whose child had become ill from drinking milk that had long past expired. At this time, the dairy industry had virtually no quality control for the products, and Capone began to lobby for safety labeling and dating specifically on milk. Capone and his loyal cronies lobbied the city council and strong-armed them into enforcing a definition for what grade A milk should be. Soon, inferior grades weren't even sold within the city of Chicago. They also helped pass an ordinance in which milk was labeled with sell-by and use-by dating. The prison logs of Alcatraz show a detailed record of this correspondence with his cronies and legislators on this issue. His brother Ralph even became known as Bottles. And while Capone is mostly remembered for his many crimes and illegal activities, whether it be out of some sort of guilt or some altruistic blood in his mafia heart, this particular legacy isn't a bad one. So next time you pour yourself a big glass of cold milk to dunk your cookies in, remember Al Capone, and tell him thanks that you didn't buy any milk that was long expired and made you sick. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, please make sure to check out my other videos on subjects like this.